welcome to another Game Guru Twitch broadcast. I'm your host, Lee Bamber, and I have one or two announcements to make. If you recall, last week in my broadcast, I threatened that I'd be much more serious and we're going to do this from A to Z and go through the whole process as if it was some sort of series of lectures. Well, I've sort of abandoned that idea for two reasons, I think. One, I rather like this format, which is free-flowing, casual. We can just change our minds halfway through the broadcast if we want to. And probably, mainly, because I ran some video quality tests, because what I wanted to have these broadcasts add up to form almost a complete course on how to create a game, but the quality was terrible. It was alright when I was talking and you was looking at a blank screen or some script, but as soon as you went into the game and you saw the webcam in the corner, it would all get very distorted. There's too much information, too much to broadcast, and if that was being recorded, it'd look pretty bad. So, unfortunately, you're going to have to stick with this format for a while longer. I will deal with the higher quality, how to make a game in video format, some other initiative. So, we get to carry on as per usual. I've also fiddled around with my microphone settings during that process of going for higher quality video and audio. So if you can't hear me or I'm a whisper, then please let me know in the chat window. I think we should be okay. I got the sound levels, so it kind of got rid of the sort of a background hum, and it also means that when I started shouting, it didn't quite get to the red line. So hopefully you can all hear me fine. Now, I remember last week we did an interesting session on the Lua menus, and all the menus can be controlled with Lua script now. And the thing is, when I called for questions in the last 5 minutes, I think I got 20 minutes of questions in 5 minutes, and I think that was pretty cruel. So what I'm going to do is ask for questions a lot earlier this broadcast, so we can have an opportunity for me to answer them properly and completely, and perhaps even demonstrate some of the answers using Game Guru right here, right now. But to kick things off, I figured this broadcast could be a sort of video version of my progress report, what I've been doing in the last week, because I'm sure you're quite curious. Those who don't read my dev blog, which is available, you can see my screen here, the little news item. We have Game Guru News at the top and Developer Blog. Now, you've always found my Developer Blog here for the last year and a bit, I think it is, and it's been fun. But you'll notice in the post, as you can read there, the king is dead, long live the king. That's pretty much my sort of farewell blog, to say, you know, we're not going to get any more dev blogs in this area. The good news is it's been moved to Game Guru News. So now if you click here, you'll actually see the blog carried on from the Monday. So Headless No More, Isometric Games, V1.12. And the reason we did that is we've developed our own blogging system. So when I post a blog, it doesn't just get hidden away in a corner of the Game Guru website. It now goes out as a news feed, a daily news feed, on our main TGC site, and also on Twitter and Facebook, and also, obviously also here as well in the latest news. And what we're going to do is change this menu slightly, so Developer Blog will go into something like a Developer Archive at the bottom of this page, and all you're going to do is click News and you come straight to here, and then you find the blog you want, click it, and then you get the full SB. And you can ask for more than a big list of what I actually have been doing, so the bottom half of this list, that's what I've been messing about with in the last 7 days. And if you were curious about where else this goes, it's a website called The Game Creators, www.thegamecreators.com, and you'll see the blog reposted there as well. But the thing I found most fun, and so it's the thing I'm going to show, is the fantasy pack work. Now, most people who do DLCs, probably everyone in fact, they'll prepare a DLC, test it, make sure it's good value for money, and then they release it onto Steam, and then kind of wash their hands of it. We're taking DLC in a different direction. We're going to set up a DLC as a particular category, or a theme, or a scope, or a style, but then we're going to continue to add content into it, thus growing the DLC every time we find an opportunity to do so. And some of you have been lucky enough to get the Fantasy Pack DLC, have already enjoyed things like the goblins and the other fantasy creatures and the Aztec buildings. But we always felt it was a great genre to add more to. It's a huge, huge category, and wouldn't it be a shame if we actually stopped? So we didn't. We commissioned some more art, and you've seen, if you've been looking at all the dev blogs, you've seen the stuff before. And it's all been culminating now into what is being tested. So right now we have some beta testers who are scrutinising the latest version 1.12, but also scrutinising, if they found it, the Fantasy Pack DLC updates, which are also part of that beta test. So if you actually went into your Fantasy Pack folder now, which is here, you'll actually find that there's more characters and some more bits and bobs. And also, something I found, now believe it or not, this asset was sitting in my folder, in my computer, for a year. An actual entire year. It's just called Knife. Used to be called Combat Knife, but as I was looking at it, you know, it's pretty much a regular knife. I mean, it's something that wouldn't be out of place in the Middle Ages. It's just a blade with a nice hilt and a leather strap. You know, so I thought, I could call that a fantasy item. So that's what I did. So I just propped myself as a start marker. A little bit of ground. And you're going to get this one in the Fantasy Pack DLC as well. So you got a nice little melee weapon. So you can pick up the knife. And there you go. And I think you already have a knife in the default section. I think it's in the medieval one, but it's very ornate. It's got lots of patterns on it and stuff, and it's very much like Hexen style Gothic knife art. This is just a regular knife. It'll fit into many different genres, but because I needed a place to put it, I've put it in the Fantasy Pack DLC. If I get uproar and you want a variation on this theme in the core product to replace the Gothic knife that we currently got, fine, just let me know and I'll see what I can do about some retexturing and a bit of a model tweak. So I just wanted to mention that there's a new category that you'll find called weapons, and I've not finished yet. I do want to release the Fantasy Pack update DLC as quickly as possible because there's lots of stuff to show. But I've actually got an artist working on some animations for some other weapons that can eventually then be put. See, I cannot do first-person weapons until the special animation's done, because the weapon's held differently, it animates, you need hands attached to it. We don't have any of that. So I've got my friendly neighbourhood artist to knock those out for me. Hopefully we can get those in, and then you'll be able to have in this folder an axe, a bow, and a sword. I think that's it. Axe, bow. Yeah, so there'll be 4 weapons, hopefully, when we actually go to release. But the one I've been focusing on, the one I'm going to witter on a little bit about, are the new characters in here. And it's sort of deceptive, really, because these look awfully similar to the characters you got originally. But actually underneath them is all lots of new animations. And I introduced you to those, I think, in the last broadcast or the one before, where I showed you the before and after of what the animations used to look like and what they do look like. So you can go back previous broadcasts to see that. What I want to show is these new ones, because I also want to show you the scripts as well. So we got Barbarian, we got Knight, and Dinky Dink, and Skellywob. Like that. Now, because of the benefits of live broadcasting, my brain has been expanded, you see, by all these other brains that are joining me on this journey. And, you know, sometimes you get a sense of deja vu, like I've demonstrated this before. My brain isn't letting me know whether that was just something I've just thought of, or whether it actually happened before. So please, if I have already shown all of these characters before, with all those scripts, then please let me know, because I really don't want to repeat subject matter. We've done pretty well. We're over 30 broadcasts, and each broadcast is totally unique and original. Largely because there's so much to show, but also because of my presentation style keeps changing for every 5 minutes. And if you say yes, you've seen all this stuff before, then I can go off the rails and do something a little different for you and show you some other stuff that you will definitely not have seen before. So I'll keep one eye out onto my other screen, which shows me what's going on in the chat. And in the meantime, I'm going to carry on with my demonstration, which is I'm going to move my start marker back there, move my knife, something I can defend myself with. I want to give myself a bit of health, actually. I'm not going to survive those 4. So 10,000 health ought to do it. They're all close together, so they're just going to muck in and you won't be able to appreciate. So you've got the axe man, which attacks slowly. In fact, can I have my knife? Move. Thank you. Let's get rid of this archer. So if I move back now, the skeleton moves twice as fast as the knight and the barbarian because it's lighter. He has a sword. Now I don't like this graphic, so we can increase shadows up, we can increase terrain, entities, grass. So now we've got a nice shadow. I always do this. I should really set them as defaults, but as soon as I start messing with the defaults, people are going to start complaining. But if I move the ambience lower and set surface higher, what you end up with is a nice, stronger shadow. And also what I like to do to improve screenshots, improve global specular. It makes the metal shiny, as you can see. So there's our Skellywob. So he's a fast attacker. And the Archer was a fast attacker. And what I'm going to do is tweak the script so she can fire arrows from a distance, so she never actually gets up to you. See how shiny that suit of armour is? Because I ramped up the global thing. I can move it up even more. And there's lots of things you can do to play around with your visuals as you see fit. So we've got Knight and Barbarian, they move slowly. You'll notice you can't pick these up. They're NPC only weapons right now. But if my artist comes through and does amazing things and they become first person weapons, then you'll be able to pick them up like that gorgeous looking axe and then use it against your foes. So I'll kill the Knight first because he just does a really boring sweep. So if I attack the Knight, get rid of him. I think there's 2 different swords. There's that clean sword. Yeah, and then the dirty sword that the skeleton had. So actually there will be 2 swords, hopefully, in the weapons folder. Now the reason I've killed everyone except this guy, you see that? He has 2 different attacks. Sweep across and then clump down. Can't kill me because I've got 10,000 health. Otherwise I'd be a goner. But what I wanted to show was they actually acted differently because they moved at different speeds and they have different animations, quite literally. So I'll just chop this guy up. See, love to be able to pick that up, run around with it, but maybe you'll see that in a week's time or so. So yeah, the origins of all that cleverness is actually the script. So if we go to the Barbarian, and we look at the script it's using, fantasy, AI fantasy character dash Barbarian, that's a unique script for this character. Now, this model, this character model, which has its animations and bone structures and stuff like that, it's what I'm calling something of an Uber model, really. It has lots of animations. The Barbarian body has the animations of the Knight, the skeleton, and the Archer. It's pretty clever. We've lumped all the animations into one super bit and then added it to each of them. And then each character uses its own set of animations within that huge animation bit file. And to demonstrate that, I'm going to go into where we was, the Entity Bank, Fantasy Pack characters, and then we'll look for, let's just start with Barbarian. As you can see again, you're actually linking to this script, and down here you'll see you've got a range. For example, when you're in the editor, it has a little idle going on, and that's the animation it's using. 26,000 to 26,200. It's quite a big idle, very useful. And if we actually looked at another of our compatriots, say the skeleton, you'll see his animation band is different. He's starting at 20,000. So you got animations from 20,000 to 21,999, and then 22 to 23,999, and 24, and so on and so forth for 4 entire sets. And that actually would be quite useful. If we actually use that in the future, we can reuse things like people who use bows and people use swords and people use axes and other weapons. So that's sort of setting a theme. But that's only half the battle. This is just what we call the internal system. This is like if you just gave the character over completely to the AI system, it uses these values to know what animation is walking, what animation is running, which one's idle, which one's standing around or fidgeting. So all those animations have been put there, and it's blank. The system knows, oh, you don't have an animation for that, so it doesn't trigger that particular action. So those are the ones we know about. And the other end of that is the script. So if we go back to Script Bank, there's a new folder called Fantasy. And inside here, as you can see, not only have I done the characters, I've redone all these scripts for the creatures. So goblins, imps might move fast, the orc and the ogre will move quite slow, and so on and so forth. And again, they also use their unique animations that they find. But these are characters; they're not. These are creatures, not characters. So creatures won't have all the animations of a character because they're quite dumb creatures. Think of them as animals that sit on two legs. So they're just creatures with a limited set of animations. But those animation frames are entirely different from the character ones, so they need their own scripts. And of course, you can change the behaviours if you change the script. You can change what the character's doing. It's all pretty cool. Fantasy character Barbarian. You'll notice again, just as you saw with the Barbarian, with the range of 26,000 upwards, we're actually using those values in here. Now, I'm not entirely happy with this. I think it would be better if all the animation values were got from the FPE. So this is the hub for all the animation data. You put it in one place, and that way you could use this script with a different character with a different set of animation frames. It's only hacked in a few places. I'm using the word hack deliberately. You see, I don't really like this, but it makes the script work and you can tailor it on the fly. And I was actually writing the script at the same time I was checking out the animations on the new characters. So it was easy for me to come in here and just use the frame values directly. But of course, longer term, as we continue to externalize mechanisms into Lua script, these would actually be centralized within the description of the entity character. In terms of the script itself, it's pretty straightforward. If you've gone through the zombie scripts and the old creature scripts, you'll see it's all very similar. We're basically setting up the character for some animation and some attack, and setting up a state, so we can actually control the character with a state engine. If you're nowhere to be seen, it's going to find a waypoint to start following that. Quite a big chunk of code. I've recently learned there's something in Lua called require. So instead of duplicating all this over and over for each script, we can basically just pop in one-liner, which says, if waypoint, then do path stuff. And all this code then can stay the same across a lot of scripts. So expect optimizations like that in the near future. But this is the gubbins. This is the stuff that you won't have seen. It's basically checking out you're not attacking and you are prone to attack because you are now closer than the attack distance of the enemy, the character, which is actually signed up there. Then it chooses one of two attacks with a random value. So if it's you do a random value between 1 and 2, and if it comes out as 1, you do one kind of attack, and if it comes out as 2, you do the other kind of attack. And then you set up the animation to play that. Then obviously you've got to wait until the animation completes, so when the animation frame exceeds the end of that attack animation, then you can go back to patrol, and then you rinse and repeat. If else here relates to the distance, if you're further away from your attack, then you can actually say, should I go back to patrol, or should I actually go and charge towards you? And then do that sound, because on alert triggers a built-in character sound effect, which I think I'd covered in a broadcast about 10 broadcasts ago, which told you all about how characters can have their own set of many sound effects that you can trigger off with strings. And that's the gubbins of the charge using a AI entity go to position. That's a built-in AI system which can automatically figure out pathfinding. Now recently, as I've been working on Save Load, I've had a few questions about moving upstairs, so you can have characters that can go on level 2 and level 3 and stand on roofs and walk around. Well, I've still not utterly decided. I'm pretty much decided on the fact that it's going to be some sort of nav mesh geometry, some way in which you can decide what's walkable and what isn't. And then based on that, you have a very small set of data that you can use to quickly navigate through a scene. Right now we're using A-Star, which is entirely 2D. It only operates on the X and Z axes and using the height of the terrain as sort of a pseudo 3D. But it really only thinks on a 2D plane. So an enemy doesn't understand the concept of a roof. It would think the roof is the same as the floor. So it has limitations. And as you can see, AI Entity Go To Position only really focuses on X and Z. It can only go into a sort of a 2D coordinate in the world. So I am thinking either we have a new set of scripts that deal with nav meshes, or we usurp AI Entity Go To Position into the service of the nav mesh system. So your scripts don't have to change. It still behaves like it would have done under A-Star. However, in the background it's actually a big nav mesh, and not only can you still do what you could do before, but now you've got this magical ability to go up stairs and ladders, get onto secondary stories and roofs and things like that, and balconies. Nav meshes are pretty cool. You can paint a polygon anywhere you want and say your character can walk on this bit. So you can have, don't just think of a staircase, think of like a series of girders on an incline all connected together up to some really high platform suspended in the air. You could actually have a character run up that girder and right onto the platform and then back down again, and it looked really good. So that's the power of them. We just have to solve a couple of ideas of exactly how deep we go into the nav mesh maze and how that's going to look from an end user's perspective. I do not want people painting polygons all day. I'd rather just drop down the girders and the platform, press play, and then the enemy figures out, oh, I can run up that. So I've got some head scratching to do, but you don't need to worry about it. I'm leaning towards making it so you don't have to change all the scripts. You can reuse the AI. We just throw away the A-Star and we replace it with the nav mesh stuff in the background so you don't see it. And here's a little health management. And of course, this is a pretty cool one we covered in the previous broadcast. It's a headshot. If you shoot or hit the head of a character, they instantly lose all their health, and then they just collapse on the ground. They have no inertia. I don't think we have commands for applying force to ragdoll. I think we might do. It'd be good to have them, but if we don't, we should put them in. So in addition to, and then they just collapse immediately under their own weight, you can actually apply some sort of force and have them fly off into the distance, or just get knocked back a little bit, which is what they don't do now. And the same goes for the knight. Again, you can see different animations and slightly different choices, like you'll notice there's only one attack type, there's no random, so he always does the same attack. That's unfair, because actually in the animation data for the knight there's lots more in there, but I just wanted to create a basic implementation. And I bet you're wondering, well, what are all those wonderful animations? Well, I left the text files intact so you could have further play with them. If you look at the Barbarian animation list, you'll actually see you've got 2 attacks and 2 blocks. I'm going to let you play around and add those to the script. But what I'm going to do for the Fantasy DLC update is make sure that they play great now, that they do X amount and create a great experience that you've not seen before. And then I'll let you run with the rest. And then if you really want me to do it, then just let me know, and that's what I'll do. And the other thing that I may also have mentioned in a previous live, i.e. previous broadcast, is the fact that all the characters you get in the Sci-Fi DLC update have been ported out to the character creator. So I noticed a little skull at the back. Let's call that a bug. I'm going to have a pretty good look at that later on. In the fact that, in addition to having just characters you can drop in, you can also mix and match. If you ever remember that game, this kids game where you could change the heads, bodies and legs and have funny, wonderful combinations, well, that was our inspiration for the character creator. Not only is it fun, you can actually create lots of interesting things out of it. I mean, this looks a little incongruous, doesn't it? Female body on a slightly too large head. It's not like a really absurd character, and yet, you could have an entire game set up like little bodies and big legs, big heads, but you're probably going to need more character parts. And as we release more documentation on how the character kit works, remember we're still just about cobbling it together. We're just out of version 1, and we're getting some feedback on what needs to be added and changed, and so we're still in that mode. So I don't really want to then recruit lots of artists to start churning out content if we then have to change it all 3 months later. but you certainly get the idea. You can change the body, you can change the head. We can give him or her the correct body, which I think was. You could have a knight, I suppose. Yeah, let's have a knight. So this is the thing I wanted to demonstrate that I definitely not covered in a previous broadcast, and has been hinted and requested at, and certainly the solution posted on the forum, but putting it in video form it might reach more people. Right now this character didn't exist until now. We never created a character that had the body of a knight and the head of a skeleton. You got to create this in the character creator because you wanted to combine these things together. You've also got head attachments, so you've got afros and Mohicans and Roman helmets. You've also got I would use this one as this sort of what would you call it? A medieval horned death mask or something. But I'm going to put the knight's head on, and what it looks like, it's a knight. It's like an undead knight. You see, all the flesh is rotted off, but he's still here, ready to do battle. And what I want to show is, right now there's a little bit of, let's call it a limitation. I mean, I'd call it a bug. But there was a reason for keeping the bug intact. It's choosing the weapon for the characters. Right now, you can only choose what we called at the time the default weapons for Game Guru. We only had 6. But since this, we have lots of weapons. There's weapons coming from the store. We're adding more weapons through DLCs. This menu is now insufficient. It needs to be a dynamic menu that pulls straight from the weapons folder. So any weapons you have, you can assign to your custom character. But you can still do that, you just have to do it slightly differently. And I'm going to show you how to do that now. Because there's no sense in giving this guy, say, an Uzi. I mean, there might be. Maybe you want to create some crazy game. So we're going to give it a name. Let's call it Undead Knight. The Black Knight always triumphs. Save. Go back. Get rid of these gorgeous creatures. That's definitely... I'm going to have to look at that. But for now, we press the reset button. Hopefully getting rid of the head. And we drop in a start marker. That's better paint on the floor. Go to our users, character creator. That's where all the character creators that you create are dumped in user character creator folder. That's one I created earlier. I think there was a dev blog, or actually used that as a bit of my art. I'm not an artist, but you know, I can use bits of what other people have created and put them together into little collages, make the screenshot half decent. This is our Undead Knight. So zoom in a little bit, and then a bit of distance. Again, we'll use our faithful knife, but this time we'll actually put it straight into the hands of our player. So fantasy knife. Apply the changes. Oh, maybe a bit more health. Good. And always save. Save early, save often. Bop, 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 bop. It may have forgotten all of its visual settings. Yeah, it has. I forgot that. I'm glad I gave myself plenty of help. I'm assuming all that's not aggression. Got our shadow. Is he shiny? Specular up. You see the specular? It adds that shine on. Another thing. Shut up. Another thing I was thinking is we can set specular on a per entity basis. You might want the knight to be shiny, but you don't want, look, the terrain's super shiny now. You may not want that. So I think per entity specular is probably a good idea. You can also pick up the Uzi. You'll notice I actually fixed a bug. You'd only get one bullet with the Uzi for a long time in Game Guru. Now I've given you a clip. So you can have a bit of fun. But again, Undead Knight with Uzi. Bit silly, a lot silly. Yeah, I agree entirely. So let's delete him. Keep our level. So we don't have to redo all them visual settings. What I'm going to do is a little bit of magic. Now, anyone, a veteran scripter or FPE or a third-party artist, already know what I'm going to do. But for everybody else, this is pretty cool. Find our undeadknight.fpe. That was created by the character creator. Open it up. this is what it's created. Ignore things like Uber Soldier and Uber Soldier. Those two areas are completely ignored because Character Creator Field overrides them. It overrides them with a selection of body parts that it glues together for you. But the bit I wanted to show you is look what the Character Creator assumed we wanted. Modern Uzi. But we don't want that. We want a fantasy weapon. And you can pick from anything that exists in your local folder. And you'll find that information rather hidden in GameCore Guns here. So normally it would have gone to Modern and Uzi. And these are all the files that tell the engine how to have a weapon held by the enemy, and with the HUD.X how it's held by the player. That's me, as first person. But there's more now, as you see. I've got Cartoon Gun. It's Cartoon Violence with the ray gun. I've got Medieval, crossbows, flails, stones, swords. You'll find a good selection of those in the sample game called Ur's Revenge. So you'll find those used there. And the one that you're going to get with the Fantasy Pack update, which includes axe, bow, knife, knight sword, skelly sword. Staff is in the. That is part of the default graphic. If you only get Game Guru Core, you'll get the staff. But what you don't get is the ability to see the staff. It basically just has a hand and it fires a fireball. I may update that so it actually is the staff that you see in the first person perspective, but no one's really complained about that. Maybe because no one found it, but now I've mentioned it, maybe someone can complain about it now. But as you can see, these are all the things we can choose. Now I'm going to give, just for lurks, the knight the knife. So it's fantasy knife. So if you take those two, pop it into here, so you know it's correct. Now it's going to have the knife instead of that Uzi. Everything else can stay the same. So we can save all that. And let me think. The only way, you see, if you try to drag in the character now, the engine kind of remembers FPE data in order to accelerate the load process. But because we saved, you notice it removed the character. When it removed it, it basically reset that entity. So you should be able to drop it in right now. You notice you don't have to leave the software and come back. You just have to be able to remove all the entity from a level and save. It'll detect that something is permanently missing, and then the engine will reset and reload that level at exactly the same point, thus removing all trace of that entity and its data in the background. So now Undead Knight should have a knife. So if we run bub, 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 bub. Have you got a knife? Or is this a knife fight? I've brought a knife to a gunfight. Hello. What do you want to do? Well, it looks like he just wants to very, very slowly slide down the hill. But he does have a knife. See, he's got his little knife there. I'll stab him in the back. Okay. Bye. Now, I already know what the problem is. All the weapons that Uzi the Colt, they all use a script called AI Soldier. AI Soldier is really good with projectile weapons, really bad with melee weapons. What you want is a script which empowers this character with the knowledge of how to fight with melee weapons. And for this, you go to the fantasy folder within Script Bank, and you have lots of them. Imps, orcs, priests, mostly they'll just fight with the hand, and the animation frames are entirely different than characters. What you want, because remember, what controls the animation, you know, the entire bulk of the BIP animations is the body, and the body is of the knight. So the best script to use in this case would be the knight, because we know the animations will line up perfectly. But I could, just for lurks, and remember I'm always going off the script here. In fact, there isn't a script. If there was a script, I've gone off it. I'm going to give him the barbarian intelligence, but in the body of a knight. Because I'm thinking the barbarian intelligence had 2 attacks. He had one overarm and then 1 sweep. So we might get 2 attacks out of this. So there's only one way to find out. But first I'm going to create a plateau to fight on. As you've noticed, I'll just swing into free flight mode. We've been fighting in a big hill, a big gully. So if you pick terrain flatten, we can create a little arena to fight in, and maybe we'll give it some stone. And I do apologise for the fact that you get this banding, that you don't get to choose, you know, any combination of terrain, because it's the way the terrain shader's set up for performance. But there's enough feedback to tell me people don't really want this. They want to be able to paint any amount of textures in any order, a full total paint control. So that's on the voting board. When that creeps up to the top, yeah, we'll swap it out for something infinitely more powerful if you give me the time. So if we run this, in fact we save, and now we run it, we can change the, we've changed the script. Now you can change the script in the FPE, that way when you drag it in it will always be the script. So let's see if he actually wakes up to the, yes! So now he's at that sweep that cuts across me, like that one, and does he do the other one? Yes! Now it's a bit ridiculous because, I mean, his knife's really tiny, so that manoeuvre, but you know what, you're still being hit, you're still hurt. A lot of people will accept the suspension of disbelief that you are being attacked with a knife because you just hurt yourself. But you notice he walks really slow, so let's say we wanted him faster. You could go into the script, but what I envisaged really for people to do is just pick a different behaviour. Now at the moment you're rather reluctantly able to just go into the script bank and assume, oh, that must do this. It's very unhelpful. It's just a file name for the most part. So what I'm planning to do, and it's going to happen in the first 3 or 4 tasks because this is part of externalizing all the mechanics into LuaScript as I go, is instead of just having this file name, which is rather bleak, is have a little button here, an extra button, that when you click it, it opens up a little GUI, like a little dialogue box, where you could actually set things that make more sense to you, like the speed of the player, how many attacks should he have, does he retreat after so many health points have been lost, things like that. And with those few little tweaks, you'll expand the capabilities of every character in Game Guru, and it means you don't have to go in and have to script anymore. So I think it's really important. There's a lot of people who don't want to script for various reasons, and we'll be able to enable that with this. I'm calling it the Lui GUI. LUAGUI. So watch out for that term pop up in my blogs. So now we've changed the script to the skeleton. Did we change it to the skeleton? Yes, we did change it to the skeleton. Now, if you remember, you still have an attack from the skeleton, but it'll be twice as fast. So put in front of his goggly eyes. Hello. Right, I'll tell you why too, because the reason the skeleton was fast wasn't because it was coded in the script, which you can do. You can actually change the character speed inside your script if you want. The reason is the FPE itself specified that the skeleton should be fast. So if you go to Skellywob, which is him, and then look at his properties, speed 300, that's why he's fast. Speed 300, so get rid of him, talk to the Undead Knight, set his speed to 300, but he's now using the skeleton. Animations, let's see what happens. Oh yes, not only are we off script and off track, I think we've just gone over a cliff, but what the hey, it's all good. Hello? Yes. So behind him and stupid AI. Now, the AI only does what your script tells it to do, you know. So you could go into the script and make sure that if you're actually walking on the spot for more than half a second, or you've lost track of the player, then actually sweep around and see where he is. So the AI only really does what the script tells you to, the script language tells it to do. So I think the script probably needs another day of work just to come up with situations like that and then make sure they don't happen, because that was just too easy. Although this is sort of a mighty knife, I seem to have killed it in one go. Or maybe I actually hit his head, that's probably what it was. So now I have graciously filled 41 minutes of this broadcast with utter waffle. I hope you saw little glimpses of new stuff, and I do apologise if I have covered some of the Fantasy Pack content before, but I'm so excited about it, and the fact it's going to be imminently released. I thought it'd be good to sort of put it all in one place. This is 95% of what you're going to get in the next update, and so hopefully you're as excited as I am about what you'll be able to do. Not just with the characters, but with the combinations, and they'll be able to change the weapons around. I mean, there's some really the axe that you saw that was held by the barbarian. Putting the axe in the hands of all the other characters, that's a laugh. You should really check that out. And I won't tell you the consequence until you do it. But it is really funny. And probably not what you're supposed to do in a final game, but just for kicks, it's really great. I'm just going to check the questions on the chat session now, because I did ask for questions, but I have now given myself 20 minutes. And I will end the broadcast early if all the questions have been answered by the end of this run. So if you have a question, stick it with a question mark and I'll definitely answer it, and or demonstrate it with Game Guru. And there seems to be quite a list, so I need to get to the top of it. And how do I do that? I have to click that button. I'm on the sort of thing where you show your screen, but if you get within 5% of the edge of the screen, it switches back to my other screen. Unfortunately, the scroll bar is within that 5%, so you can imagine my difficulty. Right, I've just made it into a window. Okay, starting at the top. I'm not going to read everything because there might be rude words. I'll start with Keith. As soon as somebody posts, it gets rid of the position in the scroll bar. So Keith Cal says it looks pointy. Okay, that's a good place to start. Malboy, can you turn the bitrate a little higher to around 2000, 2500 would be fine, because when you move around it's hard to see sometimes. Yeah, that's exactly what I got when I was trying to do more serious lecture style broadcast videos. It all got very blurry. So yeah, I will dial it up to 2000, 2500 for the next broadcast, and then you can report if, you know, we're doing good and you can still hear me and we're not getting choppiness. And then if that works, we'll jump it up even more. Let's try and get some high quality going on here. Maybe we're all on super fast broadband with excellent rigs and we can all deal with the high frame rate. Then I get great video quality at the end of it. So it's a win-win, I think. Keith Cal, why weren't the heads green when you selected? Green heads weren't green because of bug. We highlight the main entity with this special technique which overrides the shader and adds this green tint. The heads aren't given the same constant data. The shader's the same, but it's not being given the same constant data because it's a different instance of that object, and it's per object the highlighting. As you notice when you're in the editor, you highlight lots of things, but some things don't. They're all using the same shader, but only some of them need highlighting. So that per object data isn't being sent to the heads or the head attachments. So it's a bug that we can fix once it reaches a certain level of importance. But it's certainly not stopping you creating your stuff. Uncle Wolf himself, that's actually a name, states, the art style is wonderful, can easily be modified to suit any art style the user might want to go for. I think that's in reference to the knife. Yes, you could print. I mean, that knife would probably exist in, you know, the year 10,000. It's a basic knife. You can almost imagine a game with sort of an underclass of peasantry that don't get the advances of modern science, and they have to like run around and make their own weapons. Then, you know, then you've got it. So you can use that knife anywhere. So there might be a push to move it all onto the default, because we've not released it yet. I can still move the knife into the core product if no one has the fancy pack. So happy to hear votes for that too. Nathan L says, I never knew skeletons had blood. In Game Guru, everything has blood. There is a setting. Actually, I can show you this one. Perfect opportunity. Let's take an Undead's Night. There's a setting called Blood Effects. Set it to no. Apply changes. You can hit him all day long now, and no blood will come out. We put it in because we wanted people to like make cartoon games and kids games where you don't want violence. So we put it in for that. Also, when they hit you, you may don't want hurt blood in that case as well. So there's another one called Blood Effects in the player. So now the player doesn't have any blood. So now no one has blood in the game at all. We are going to add something else in the next month or so. It's kind of like parental control, but it's like a non-violent flag. So you set that up at the start of the software, and then you'll never get blood or violent things in the product, and that'll override everything that you just saw me change then. So that's something we're going to do if you don't want to see blood at all. But yeah, you can certainly on an entity basis decide whether they have blood or not. So that's something I probably haven't mentioned before, and there's a lot of secret things in here. You'll find out just by experimenting for the most part. The barbarian was pushing the sword around on the ground as he walked over it. Yeah, the weapons stay physics objects until you pick them up, so you can actually move them around as much as you want. You know, and with the low script, you can then take over entities and have them do anything you want. You know, you can move them, bang them about. So, but the weapons, the dropped weapons, they're just basic physics blobs until you either move out of range or you pick them up or you destroy them, because you have an option to not drop the weapon. VRG asks, Luke Snass, is it possible to throw the knife to the enemies? No, not in this one. It's a pure keep hold of the knife and stab people at close range. Throwing knives would fall into the same category as the bow and arrow, or probably more accurately the grenade, because once you've thrown your knife, you don't have a knife anymore, just as when you throw the grenade, you don't have the grenade anymore. Certainly a feature request. If I get a few more of those, it will certainly sink in, and then maybe I will get some modified animations done, and then you can throw your knife. But right now, you know, it's glued to your hand, essentially. Quite literally glued to your hand. Also says, nice characters, looks great, thanks very much. I can't take the credit, I'm afraid. Artists better than me produce all this cool stuff. Uncle Wolf himself states, it would be very helpful if we had 2 different kinds of health. Yeah, like an armour and then the fleshy bit underneath. Absolutely. But you can do that with script. We've given you full control over HUDs, so you can create sprites, arrangements to have different things. So you have 5 or 6 different kinds of health, all stocked one on top of the other, and then you'd actually use your own Lua script. And then keep hidden the player health, which is, you know, you would set that to 0 when you've actually been defeated. But up until that point, you know, when you take damage, you can just put the health back on and then just have the HUD report different kinds of health. Like up to 100, it's flesh health, and then up to 300, it might be armor or shield health. So you could do that in script. But if you absolutely can't because you've tried and there's a command missing, please let me know, because it literally is the work of 10 minutes to add a command to help you get that sort of gameplay that you want. All the best gameplay will come from very interesting and clever scripts, and you can do a lot with scripts even now. I'm just skipping past a few hellos and happy birthdays. That head is massive for that body, yes. That was completely intentional. People like my skeleton woman. Actress26 asks, can you add dragons? There actually is I think there's a Diplodocus. There's a Diplodocus in the store. I think you can find. It's from a dinosaur, or at least an animal pack or a creature pack. Don't think I've seen a dragon yet, but I think now it's been mentioned in a broadcast. One of the third-party artists will get it in their mind to stick scales and teeth on the Diplodocus, and then you'll have a dragon. But yeah, dragons in the fantasy pack will be awesome. In fact, if we ever did a 3rd round of updates, you know, I think dragon would be cool. A lot of work. I think, you know, a lot of artist time to create a great dragon. But you can imagine the potential. It would have several attacks. It would blow fire at you. It could fly into the air. It could land on you, and it could bite you. Yeah, I think large end of level boss kind of thing would be cool. Problem is when you do something so dedicated, it becomes so that everybody uses it. So everyone uses the dragon. I'll have the same dragon in their game. So people start to say, oh yeah, that's a Game Guru game because I've just seen that dragon again. So there's always a danger when you put so much into one object. We could have, like, you know, done 5 characters and 20 items in the same amount of time as doing that one dragon. So it's a really difficult choice sometimes. But yeah, we need at least one dragon in Game Guru. Absolutely. So the call's going out for third-party artists to unite and add scales onto the Diplodocus. Uncle Wolf himself, that would be a Greek helmet, just saying, yeah, I think it is a Greek helmet. Unfortunately, the artists always don't name the objects. They just say, you know, this is a helmet, and then I have to come up with some crazy name. So sometimes I get it completely wrong. So people are liking the
Undead Skeleton, Undead Knight. I have to hold down the left mouse button because every time somebody posts, I lose my position. So I apologise for the tardiness. Got about 8 minutes left before this broadcast terminates, whether I've finished or not. Everybody wants dragons now. Might have been one in the FPS Creator collection, absolutely. We're mining through that now as we open source all the model packs for FPS Creator. So if I come across anything cool, yeah, I'll definitely drag it across Kicking and Stream into Game Guru for you. Won't be too hard to get in, absolutely. It's practically, the FP is the same between FPSC and Game Guru, just a few little tweaks and some stuff that's ignored now. Uncle Wolf, Ring My Fancy Weapons from the store to these guys, if you don't mind shameless advertisement. Yeah, go and check out Uncle Wolf's store stuff, it's all in there. Nathan asks, I wish I could mess around with stuff in Game Guru. Currently my Game Guru crashes whenever I open the entity menu. Or try to put a script on an entity. That's very odd. It usually crashes right away. It doesn't wait until you want to open an entity properties. Can you create a video of that, Nathan, and then send it to me at lee@thegamecreators.com? Never seen that one before. And you really want to be up and running the Game Guru and doing all this really cool stuff that you're seeing in the broadcasts now. Looking for a question mark. Everyone's glad. Everyone's happy. Love her icons. Yeah, blatant advertising there. It's probably just a thing that you can actually see it in the broadcast, because it is. It's absolutely blatant advertising. It's it's something I'd probably do myself actually. I'm just trying to dig through all the chat to actually find an actual question related to what I've been talking about. Ding, ding, ding. But that's fine. That's what it's about. It's just very difficult for me to keep up. Can I add you on Steam? Yep, it's just chatting, blah, blah, blah. I'm afraid I don't really accept any invites. Right, at clip mode has been disabled in the beta, which is awesome for 3D isometric. It is possible to enable disable clip with the trigger zone, best of both worlds. Good idea. See, the reason I didn't go any further than just a really simple isometric detect and camera collision disable is eventually that entire mechanism is going to be externalized as Lua script. And then you'll be able to do anything you want. You won't even need a Lua command. You can just go in and change the global variable, just hack the code out, and then replace it with your own kind of thing, and trigger it from anything. You know, trigger it based on a sound that was made. So that's the logic. Why would I do that and then having rewrite it in an externalized Lua script? So I'm picking and choosing my battles, but yeah, absolutely would have everything triggerable from script, from within the game, not from some quirky little hack that I threw in just to satisfy a basic form of isometric perspective. I've lost my place again. I just look for the question marks. That's probably easier because we've got 4 minutes and I've only gone halfway through this chat fest. Maybe we need 2 chat windows, one for just general chat and then one for actual questions, or a moderator will just tell me what all the questions were. That's probably best. Looks nice. Blah blah blah. No money to spend. Buy it. All these scripts. Process of importing my characters. That's Uncle Wolf, so that sounds good. More content on the way. Sale, bargain, blah blah blah, cats and dogs, boards, blah blah blah. Alright, here we go. Here's an interesting one. Milo9000 asks, maybe in the future there may be an option for blood control, exchange blood for slime or sparks, for entity, blah blah blah. Actually, yes, the blood is actually just a decal. If you go into the FPE, you'll actually see the decal called blood. You can just change that name for any of the decals in the decal folder and the blood will change to whatever that animation is. So you can have, when you hit someone, it explodes, or it's smoke, or it's debris, or it's glass, whatever you want. It's actually in there now. So just check out the FPE, look for decal, and you'll see blood specified, and you can change that to anything in the decal folder, which is gamecore/decals. So that's where you'd find it. I'll mail you blah blah health issue on Friday. Yep, so people helping each other. If you need more help, just check out the 2 forums on Game Guru. That will definitely help you more than just scratching your head staring at the blank screen. AR520 asks, do we have ships in Game Guru? I can imagine a slick pirate ship battle game. Check out the Game Guru gallery. I've seen lots of ships, pirate ships, wrecked ships. They must have come from somewhere, probably from the store. So yeah, there's definitely ships in Game Guru. I can't tell you where they are, probably 30 nautical miles out to sea, but I'm sure someone will be able to help within this community. Either in this chat, because they can't help posting just random chat, or in the forums and ask a question there or on Steam. You'll get your answer. Or just browse the store, just type ship. We have a search feature in the store, just type anything you want to look for and it'll pop up a short list for you. And I'm at the bottom. Hooray, I can let go of the left mouse button. That was painful. Now I can read at my own pace now. Being able to choose that decal in the properties menu would be cool. Yeah, I think it should be in there actually, because it's very dynamic. You may want to change it per entity as well. Yeah, good stuff. Drop me an email on that, because I'm totally going to forget and I can add it to my shortlist, because it should be too difficult. But not for this 1.12 version, probably the one after it, because I'm really stabilising features now. I just want to make sure that what we have works, and the beta is ready for everybody else, because everybody else wants this fantasy update, and they want all these 27 fixes that we've put in. Keith C, community is there when you have questions? Absolutely. We're quite ravenous when it comes to questions. We eat them for breakfast, dinner and tea. VIG says, thanks for the nice work. Bye. I guess, yeah, we are coming up to the hour. Everyone's got things to eat. It's dinner time. I'm a bit hungry myself, by the way. What's this? Gerson Not 52. Are we going to get our way to position objects using XYZ positioning? I think you can do that right now. There's a command for that. And can I, Actress 26, can I add custom models? Actually, yes. If you look at my screen, you'll actually see here, it says import model. You can actually select that and then choose an X file, and it imports it with its texture, and then you can actually have it created as an entity and then you can drop it in your game. It's part of your entity library in the user folder from then on. And the last question, you can add any custom models, just keep an eye. Lee's working in FBX format. Yes, FBX, everyone likes FBX. I will have no enemies after adding the FBX format, which will be added to the import model feature. So in addition to ancient X files, which we've been using for a decade, you'll be able to import an FBX, which everybody exports. So that's going to be really cool. We're going to add that in the building editor. If that's still the top thing when we start work, yeah, the building editor will introduce the importing of FBX files, and it's going to be awesome. So on that awesome bombshell, I shall say goodbye. We hit the hour perfect. Thanks very much for your attention. I'm going to change the schedule, I think. I think it's going to be next Wednesday, but keep an eye out on the site, whether it's Wednesday or Thursday, because I need to keep dodging meetings. It may be neither. I maybe have to drag Ravy out of retirement to fill in with a much better broadcast than I could ever manage. Because he prepares all days for his blogs. I just show up at 3:59 to do mine. So until next week, I'm going to switch over to that music you like so much. Bye!